Hi everybody, today we're working on greenside bunker shots, right? Might not be the most favorite shot in golf, but we're going to find ourselves in these situations once in a while. So here's how we get out of a bunker, all right? Now the biggest concept out of a greenside bunker is that we have to hit the sand before the ball. So essentially what we're doing is we're hitting the ball fat, right? Our club hitting the sand first is going to actually propel or push the ball up out of the sand and possibly generate some spin depending on where our club actually strikes that sand. Good general rule of concept is that when we are hitting behind the ball, hitting the sand behind the ball, we want to do it 2 or 3 inches or so behind that ball, right? That's going to give this enough sand to push that ball up and out. It's not going to spin as much from that position, but it's going to definitely give us enough cushion to get it up and out, all right? The closer we get to the ball with the club, the more it's going to spin, right? So if you're trying to spin the ball out of a bunker, you're going to hit fairly close to it, but still behind it, all right? Now, you see the line that I drew here in the sand. Obviously, we can't do that when we're playing because our club cannot ground the sand before we hit the ball, but it's a good way to practice, right? So now what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to focus on that line, or if I was playing, I'd focus on a spot in the sand, those 2 or so inches behind the ball, and that's where I want my club to hit the sand, all right? Now, what I'm going to do in my setup is, since I'm going to have to take a pretty big aggressive swing to get enough sand to push that ball up and out, I'm going to get a pretty wide setup here, right? And then when I take my setup, I'm going to make sure I'm getting enough knee bend. I'm going to get pretty low because I want that club to go down through the sand underneath where the ball would be, all right? So big wide setup, slightly open maybe. It doesn't have to be crazy, right? You can set up neutral, set up square and hit a bunker shot. I like to do it just a slightly open, all right? Then the biggest thing that we want to do from here, once we've got our stance, is we want to make sure we set the club face slightly open, right? Now it's important that we do that before we grip it. Otherwise, we're going to be closing it as we hit it. So I'm going to set this club open in my hands before I grip it, take my grip with the face open. Now I've got it set. Now I won't be ripping it shut as I'm swinging because I gripped it square and then opened it, right? So we're going to open it before we grip it. Then what I'm going to do with my swing is I'm really just going to take a big swing where I get really steep, kind of narrow, so a lot of wrist hinge, and I'm really going to focus on just getting that club to explode down into the sand right on that line that I drew, right on my spot that I'm looking at, about 2 inches behind the ball. So wide stance, aggressive, narrow swing with a little bit of speed, and that open club face is going to get me to push this ball up and out of the sand a little bit. All right, so a couple big things that we're going to focus on is we're going to get big wide stance, narrow aggressive swing, sand first before the ball.